Senator Scott.
Thank you, Senator. I'll make this a short question. Ms. Olafson, I think there was a survey done by the NFIB earlier this year that found that the impact of the tax on providers, the $100 billion tax, started, I think next year starts at about $8 billion, and it goes up over the years. If the small business community is in fact the economic engine that we see of recent, their survey suggests that private sector employment should fall about 146,000 to 262,000 because of the new tax. How is Small Business Administration going to respond, and how do we help change that direction?
So thank you, Senator, for your question. You know, I think, and I can't emphasize this enough, you know, we've been hearing for years that access to affordable health care is one of the top concerns for business owners, and that, as you've heard from many of us today, that often historically businesses were paying as much as 18% more. And so we know that there are many mechanisms and reforms within this law that help to bring down costs for small business, including the rule that requires insurance companies to cover or to spend at least 80% of dollars on health care, and the rate review mechanisms. As far as that particular provision you're talking about, I believe it's the health insurance assessment. I would certainly defer to my colleagues at Treasury for more nuanced information about that. But we know that, you know, we've been hearing this concern from the business community, and the Affordable Care Act is helping to level the playing field for the first time for businesses.
I would just suggest that having owned a business, and I was an Allstate agent for the last 14 or 15 years in business ownership, and I'll tell you that the notion that the ACA is somehow going to create a more competitive environment is inconsistent with the reality faced by many of the businesses that I've been talking to. And quote one specifically, a guy named Kerry Chastain, who owns a bunch of Moe's franchises in Charleston. When you talk to him about talking to insurance agents about what they anticipate on the market looking like, he gets 6 different answers from 6 different agents. So very consistently, the thing that seems to be most consistent about the ACA and its impact on small businesses is the lack of consistency that they're receiving. So I think we're in for a hard road as we see the inconsistencies of the act, and its impact on businesses will be, I think, dire.
Well, and part of the challenge is, you know, really to make sure that business owners understand the facts, because as I've said before, and we talk to business owners every day, there's still a lot of misinformation. I mean, a lot of business owners still think that they may be impacted by something like shared responsibility without realizing sort of what are the exact facts around that. And that's our mission. You know, we're here to give that information to the hands of business owners, recognizing these are business decisions at the end of the day, but we need them to have the right information and the tools to make the best, most informed decision.
I think the fact that the regulatory environment seems to be still in creation is a part of the challenge that many business owners face today as it relates to the ACA, and the inability to understand what has not yet been filled in on the pages of the regulations perhaps provides a greater opportunity for discontentment than does the lack of clarity going forward on the plans that will be available, though that in and of itself is still uncertain as well.
Senator, may I
chime in? Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Treasury has issued comprehensive proposed regulations on the employer responsibility provisions, generally out of concern for the point you're making, that we do want small businesses and employers generally to have guidance that's clear and comprehensible and workable for them. And Senator, we had 4 rounds of guidance in writing at the sub-regulatory level, and then written comments on those concepts from the small and large business community and all stakeholders who are interested in the public process. And it was tremendously useful to get that feedback from small and larger business in order to enable us to put rules out that would enable them to go ahead and make their own best decisions about how to comply.
Yes, sir. I would say that I don't question the good intentions. There's some statement sometime about the road somewhere is paved with good intentions. I'm not quite sure where that road leads, but I will tell you that from the folks, Mr. Senator Risch, you may know where that road leads. We'll talk about that later. What we've learned, however, is that when you talk to business owners about the implementation and the challenges that they face, I spoke with a CPA just yesterday, has a small firm, about 4 or 5 employees, and their coverage is leaving South Carolina because of the inability to understand the path forward. So the number of insurers available in states are becoming fewer. Insurers are available in states, not more, and that, I believe, will cause more pressure on the rates in states. And so you'll see, in the end, higher rates. You'll see the new health insurance tax, the HIT, coming into play, which is only a pass-through down to employers who will help to pay for a part of their employees' premiums. And so the pressure on small businesses will only increase, but I think I'm out of time.
Yes, but